Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. I welcome you to McDuff Lives and to our Friday live chat and news roundup with Marcia. All right, it's Friday, September 12th, 2025, and it's Friday news wrap up with McDuff and Marcia. Hi, Marcia.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here today.
And how are you doing, Marcia?
I'm doing okay. A little, I don't know what the word is. Twisted and a bit out of sorts from the news. I'm trying to figure out the world is not making any sense to me right now.
Well, I have to admit that makes sense.
Oh, that's sad. Yes.
But I think I can help you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Help me.
Well, let's just, yesterday's show was about liberty. What do we, as Americans, inherit from the founding fathers in terms of what did they think liberty meant?
Uh-huh.
And we talked about, with the help of Professor James Vaughn, and if you haven't seen the show, do look at it. It was yesterday here at the same channel. Professor James Vaughn of the University of Chicago spelled it out pretty clearly for me, and that is that what we wanted was a civil society in which we can exercise our own individual creativity, but also to form groups and new ventures and do things together and not worry about having COINTELPRO sneaking into our Boy Scout group, What we wanted, what we thought we had was not just the Bill of Rights, but a country in which we could prosper in terms of fulfilling that human essence that, the philosophers tell us that's what separates us from animals, is we have the ability to create. We have the ability to make big changes in whatever way we want. And that, I think, is what the empire has to stamp out. And so by imposing the Tea Act and the Townsend Act and the Declaratory Act, the British elite that were in some financial trouble but didn't want to admit it were figuring out a way to just suck money out of the colonies without the colonies having anything to say about it. But in the fact was that by then the colonies had created their own legislatures. They were appointing the leaders in Massachusetts, in Pennsylvania, in Virginia, and various other states from time to time. And sometimes the royals would come along and take it away, like New York. But the idea is that the general population, while growing to over 2 million people in the course of the 18th century, grew into a civil society in which they didn't have to put up with that stuff, And that idea that we can actually create our own economy, that we can expand, that we could actually one day, as Franklin predicted, exceed the population of Great Britain. And since we have already, 50 times as much land, Great Britain's in trouble. So this idea of freedom or liberty, as they called it, is a direct threat to the wealth. So when they tried to take it from us, they got burned. and they lost us. But ever since then, they've been scheming to get us back. And I think if you look at the arc of American history, the way that we do here at McDuff Lives, and with the help of so many great people that I can't even name, dozens of great authors and speakers and producers have given us a picture of that old imperial wealth still breathing down our neck and trying to put that heel on our neck to extinguish our freedom forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the force of history right now. And so when you look at one thing that happened one day in 1 week of 1 year, and you see that it divides America, just like the Civil War, right? Same thing, moral righteousness on both sides, stoked by the media, divide and conquer. That's what they've been doing all along. The empire wants to divide in order to conquer this country.
Mm-hmm.
And they hide behind Israel. This is where I think the problem really is right now, is that there is so much deception. And I think the Mossad's motto is to win by deception, that it creates the state of mind that you described. So our duty is to not fall into despair and not to believe in the dystopia that they're feeding us, and to keep understanding that we, the United States of America, as Lincoln said, is the last best hope of mankind. So we have to fight for the maintenance, the preservation of this country, and in particular, the Constitution. And that's what the greatest generation fought for. That's what my father's generation fought for, and perhaps your grandfather or great grandfather at this point fought for it. But don't forget them. Don't forget what they fought for. And they were often confused by the media, as we are. But nevertheless, in their hearts was a knowledge that this country is our country. It's a special place, and it has successfully defied the empire. But the empire keeps getting stronger, doing push-ups in the back room. And if we let them take another shot at us, we might go down.
Agreed. I think everything that you have just said is brilliant and very, very true, and absolutely sums up what's going on. And as you were talking, I'm thinking to myself, what does that look like? What does it look like to not allow the empire to divide us? Because we are so divided right now. The division, I thought I had seen the most divided we could possibly be during COVID. When there was just so much angry rhetoric on both sides, and and I unfollowed a lot of people on social media during that era because I just got tired of all of the angry rhetoric and name calling and intolerance and regurgitating memes and phrases and, as I call it, shaming shorthand. But right now, I think it's even worse. And everybody is using the same tactics to silence and shame the other side. And both sides are doing the same thing. It reminds me of that moment at the end of Animal Farm when the animals can't tell the humans from the pigs. It's just, and we are so divided. How do we come together and recognize that we are all fighting a common enemy, and that if we unite, we are much stronger than they are? But we must unite. But uniting us is going to be a Herculean task.
I offer the history, the real narrative of America. I offer you Anton Chaikin's Who We Are, and he's working on volume 3 as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
I offer you the many great essays in Executive Intelligence Review, which you can find at larouchepub.com. And I offer you the idea that our education system has been bent to support the empire against the real American system. You know, what shows it better than the fact that in the 19th century, you know, education was the highest prized thing, and the school teachers were, you know, completely honest. And the idea was, you know, you've got to learn, not only you learn your 3 R's, and everybody had that, but then you went into things like poetry and literature and expanding your vocabulary and be able to speak in terms of lots of different perspectives, knowing Shakespeare as Lincoln did, and the whole value of a education and expanding your mind and developing your ability to reason, you know, and while that happens in individuals, we need it to happen in communities. We need it to happen in a community where you've got people that go to a book club and read Shakespeare together and then talk about it.
Community. That's,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the word. You know, yesterday
Yeah.
when I was listening to the video that you were playing, I noticed he didn't use that word, and he could have. I don't think it was a purposeful omission. It was just not a word that he chose to use.
Yeah.
But community, that I think that is exactly what he was talking about. He was talking about people's liberty to create communities, to come together, to pursue common creative thought, to explore, to learn, to share, to have community. And our communities are being totally broken down. You know, Brightmore, good morning, Brightmore, says, the common enemy is the faction involved in the pervasive government's psychological warfare that has us believing we're more divided than we are. I feel like we are very divided, Brightmore. So, you know, maybe that is part of the psyop, is this sense of futility that I'm feeling. It's being created in me by all of this stuff that I'm reading about in the media.
But it's not new, you know. We also have 9/11 this week. A lot of
Yes,
people
indeed.
were posting, you know, we will never forget, we will pray for the victims and all.
But wait a minute.
But who is demanding a new investigation? Hardly anybody. Go ahead.
Hardly anybody, but it's not dividing us. If anything, 9/11 brought us together. You know, one of the posts that I've seen a lot this week is people posting that in order to honor the people who died on 9/11, let's be the people we were on 9/12.
I got a question. What does that mean? I see that meme and I say, oh, well, who was I on 9? What is it?
It was that sense of us all coming together. It brought us together.
Like George W. Bush standing on the rubble saying, you know, America's all behind me.
That was a few days later. And
yeah.
But on 9/12,
yeah,
we were all very united. And we all, you know, did, you know, especially in this community, we had we had so many members of our community here where we live in Southern Maryland who were killed at the Pentagon.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
And so, yeah, I mean, we were, and I even remember an event.
But united in what? United in grief, united in frustration, united
all of
in,
those things.
Yes, and united in a sense of things have gone way beyond our control, and we're all,
and we must come together as a nation to fight it. This is the problem.
Okay.
Nobody is now saying we must come together as a nation to fight hate, to fight intolerance, to fight violence, to fight whatever it is that's tearing us apart. We're not coming together. We're just continuing to allow ourselves to being torn apart.
You know, we had David Cranrunner down on the show here on this past Tuesday. That was September the 9th, if you want to go back and look at that show. But we were talking a lot about undo the coup and how, you know, we passionately believe here that in order to get America out of its current psyop, we've got to go back and undo the assassination of President Kennedy. And David is absolutely with me on that. He says, I want to undo the coup. But he added the dimension of it being a psychological operation against the American people. To create that sense that you just described after 9/11, but without the unity. But, you know, again, unity, I guess, is a good thing, the idea. But the problem's going to be that once you start investigating and digging into it, then that unity is going to fall apart.
Well, because again, all of the psychological operations, and Brightmore has some interesting comments, questions that I think kind of get us there in my mind. First, Brightmore asked, why has Trump announced that Kirk's killer has been caught, yet the media has released no identity? They have released an identity. I saw it just before we started. His name is Tyler Robinson, and he is from Utah. And they are starting to release some of the details that Trump talked about early in the morning, I believe it was. They're starting to confirm that his father was involved in turning him in, and there was a minister involved, and the kid confessed, and family members, and the whole thing. So he has been identified. But then there's this. Brightmore says, Megyn Kelly said that pro-trans, anti-fascist phrases were written on the shell casings found in Kirk's killing. Okay. And I've even read, right before we started, some of the things that were written on the shell casings. I think one of them was, here you go, you fascist. I didn't hear anything pro-trans, but I did read that there was some kind of an LGBT slur or something like that. But whatever. This is where, okay, now what is the business of writing these things on shell casings? Whoever does that's just a crazy person. But yet it plants in our minds this language, this divisive language. It plants in our minds that this is who this person was. This is who he, it speaks to his motivation. And so then we all say, oh, you know, he was a left-wing radical who was accusing the right of being fascist. And, you know, it starts to be, again, all of this shaming shorthand, this language that implies he's a bad guy and you need to hate him. I'm sorry, but I have trouble with that. Then when I see stuff like that, I start to think, okay, this is a psyop.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, again, we are now going to be told, and I saw it was one of the Utah police officers at a podium saying he acted alone. He was a lone nut shooter, you know. I think even yesterday they said that it was a bolt action rifle.
It was, yeah.
Wow. I mean, are they not playing on our memories of the Lee Harvey Oswald bolt action rifle? I think the whole thing is a psyop. I'm not
Yeah.
saying he didn't.
Yeah.
They shot him. He's dead. But okay, was he qualified to shoot this gun? How does somebody just suddenly pop up and be able to hit somebody in the jugular vein from 200 yards without ever, what
being
is his,
so clever as to be able to imagine and plan an escape route and be so fit that not only is he a great shooter, but he can jump down off the roof of a building and then run into the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember seeing people running, kind of look like military clad people running off into the woods at Sandy Hook. This is all a big psyop. It's being put on by the empire for the same reason that they drummed up the Civil War, for the same reason that they have drained our pocketbooks over and over again with financial schemes. The Great Depression, they ran it. This is the problem, is the American people are still looking at one another as if, we're the bad guys. No, we're not the bad guys.
Exactly.
We are not the bad guys.
Brightmore explains that writing on shell casings started with Brandon Tarrant, who murdered several Muslims. I'm not familiar with that case. Thank you, Brightmore. I'll read up on that. Prester John says, we're being blitzed with psyops at breakneck speed. Indeed, breakneck speed. That's it. Exactly. Now, I'm assuming 3 weeks of training, says Wahed Rex. Assuming that has to do with how he got himself able to do that shooting.
Yeah.
I don't think 3 weeks of training is going to get somebody that kind of marksman abilities.
Yeah, and I don't know about this gun yet either. I'd have to know a whole lot of details about this gun and where you got it from, and so I mean, what I'm saying is, everything in the media right now is there for the purpose that Prester John says we are being blitzed with psyops, and that is to keep us, like the deer in the headlights. We're frozen.
The media was quick to ask if Kirk's murder would ignite a civil war.
That's right.
Yeah, let's plant that idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, they've been trying to get us to do a civil war for decades now. And, I don't know when everybody's going to wake up, but at least I can say that you and I are on the right track, Marcia. The idea of going into a bunker and throwing, meme grenades at the other side doesn't happen. And I do want to credit my social media. My Facebook page has not shown me a single hate message since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and I'm glad to report that. And I think that they are, like, the Trump side is over reporting.
The Trump side's making a huge to-do about the left's reaction.
The left's reactions.
And people are being told that they're going to lose their jobs if they speak out in favor of killing Charlie Kirk. So, again, we're going to fight for freedom of the freedom of speech by denying freedom of speech. But, distractions, a couple of people are noting.
And inciting, because that makes them angry. Probably, I think it makes you angry.
It does, absolutely.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And once you can get somebody angry and afraid at the same time, then you can control them.
Ah, good point. Very good point. Brightmore says a nice distraction from Bibi's latest campaign to pave Gaza. Brightmore, I wish that were true. I just don't think too many people are concerned about that. About Bibi's desire to pave Gaza and kill off and dislocate all those Palestinians. I wish people were more concerned about that, but they don't seem to be, and certainly not our Congress. But then again, as Prester John says, it's a nice distraction from the Epstein files being released. And yeah, everybody's really into that because that involves pretty women and sex.
And salacious pictures of little children too. It's pretty disgusting.
Well, Polly seems to be starting something here. A professional sniper allowed to operate. I'm not sure what.
In other words, why did they let a professional sniper get on top of that building?
I see. Was he a professional sniper? I mean, yes, obviously he was, because he's
unless that was just the luckiest shot in the world,
right.
A kill shot right to the, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this guy is, whoever shot that, and I don't think it was some kid that they're putting in front of the cameras, because everybody is scared. Everybody who's in power has already either been blackmailed, they've been to Epstein's Island and they can't talk, or they got, or else they got bribed, or the worst thing is that they get a picture of their kids at the playground, and and then they just totally back off.
I saw a thing where members of Congress are starting to cancel events because they're so scared, and they're saying, by no means am I doing an outdoor event, because they are scared now. But that doesn't do any good, because shooters can come to your house, as that Minnesota lawmaker sadly learned.
Yeah.
Brightmore says it's uncanny how often the media has ready-made, in-depth articles and biographies on lone wolf shooters. Well, we'll see this Tyler Robinson person and what we learn about him.
Yeah. And I don't believe, what if you believe it, then you believe that the media, the education system, religions of some sorts are brainwashing our children to grow up to think, that Trump is Hitler, that, our government is evil, and it's their duty to do something. And that's part of what they want us to believe. I just have a stronger belief in humanity than that. I just think that our kids are not going to buy that. But then I haven't been in a school in so many years, so maybe they are turned into, psychological warfare experts instead of teaching grammar.
Well, parents are being brainwashed, and so then the parents are also participating in this brainwashing of their children.
Mm.
Brightmore goes on to say, Bibi just bombed Qatar to kill Hamas. Trump is meeting with Qatar officials to address yet another foreign invasion by Bibi. Scary, scary stuff over there.
Yeah, and I've noticed that Trump backed down from Chicago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's not going to Chicago.
Going to Memphis. I did see that.
I know, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Polly says in Dutch schools, mandated to show the mainstream news, tell the story Charlie Kirk asked for being shot.
Oh my God.
Shot at.
Now that's what. Yeah. The Netherlands. My God, they got that lawyer locked up for just for being the lawyer for the people that want to prosecute. I think Bill Gates and some of the other billionaire pharma people, and they just locked him up. I mean, well.
Brightmore, interesting question. Wonder if Kamala will update her security detail on her book tour after Trump removed her Secret Service protection. Well, if I were her, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these assassinations are all psyops. How many wars started with an assassination?
Right.
World War I, just off the top of my head, and the whole idea of there is this empire that does not want America to succeed as America, and they will use whatever means are necessary And from time to time, they do a shooting, you know, they do it.
Yeah, from time to time, but the times are getting closer and closer. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of all the school shootings was. I don't know what that accomplished. If anything, I would think that brings us more together because, the idea of killing innocent children um, is so heartbreaking. But then again, that's only American children. If children in other parts of the world are killed, we don't seem to be that concerned about it. Again, with all the Palestinian children that are being maimed and killed, it's just heartbreaking. And the American people aren't saying stop it. And certainly American elected officials aren't saying stop it. But now it's spreading to politicians and shooting politicians. Yeah, there was the one of the Arizona congresswoman whose name is totally escaping me. Her husband now holds that seat. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Mark Kelly's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's one elected official who was shot a while back, but in the last year, there have been a number of shootings. Trump referred to the Steve Scalise, and again, that was a long, long time ago. But, recently.
I don't know if Trump did. I just did.
Yeah. No, Trump did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, let me get back to your question about who benefits from the school shootings. The school shootings are to create fear in the American public that there are these nutcases out there, that there are these lone nuts that sit in their closet with 17 AR-15s, and they are, nuts. And they go out and shoot up schools. When you can get the American people to believe that that is true, that there really are these nuts with guns and there's nothing we can do to stop them, except for what? Except for increase the security state.
And take away our guns.
Take away the guns.
Right.
Impose the cameras everywhere, a huge surveillance state. That turns us into serfs and accomplishes the goal of the empire. So, I don't think it's a mystery why the powers behind the scenes would create these school shootings.
Yes, I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. It hasn't been successful. It hasn't worked. The school shootings have been going on for a long time now, and it has done nothing to accomplish what you're talking about so far.
Fortunately, yeah.
Fortunately, but it continues to happen, and I think why. At this point, it's not achieving that goal.
But this young man, if he's the guy that shot Charlie Kirk, then he carries that flag now.
That's my point. Is now they're moving away from the school shootings to shooting first. Shooting elected officials, but now shooting political influencers. And thank you, both Brightmore and Corky. It was Gabby Gifford, the name that I could not pull up.
Yeah. Let's get back over to the chat. I've been neglecting.
Yeah. No, my mouse is... There we go. Polly says, John, you've read this week for us about JFK, and I remember you saying about the mercury in a bullet to make sure it'll be effective.
Yeah, that's me reading from one of the expert reports, and
that was from the Gregory Douglas book.
Oh, okay, that's the interesting thing is, it from my watching of the Zapruder film. It does look like that's what happened, that there was a mercury bullet.
Well, that's what the DIA report says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, though, I want to report to you that I filed a FOIA to get the DIA report from 1978. I asked Grok to phrase the FOIA report for me because they would know the address and how to write it. So I read it and I said, okay, that makes sense. So I pushed it, I sent it off. DIA FOIA, got a note back the next day. This will acknowledge receipt of your FOIA request. Please be advised that due to the complex nature of the questions that you have posed, it may take us a number of years for us to retrieve sufficient information. Our FOIAs are responded in the order in which received, and we currently have over 1,300 unresponded FOIAs in queue.
Oh my God.
Okay, so
that's how it's done.
Yeah, I mean, there it is. It's slap in the face, you
Yep.
know. And why? Because it's still the cover up. They're still scared.
Exactly. Brightmore says Scalise was investigating child trafficking at the time of his shooting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another, you know, I don't remember how Thomas Massey's wife got killed, but she got killed right after he said something about Epstein and Israel and stuff. So, you know, Thomas Massey, the congressman from Kentucky, who's on Trump's shit list because he voted against the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, and he's advocating for the release of the Epstein files.
Absolutely, yeah. So that, again, you know, I mean, is it not in our face now that they're saying, you know, if you be like Charlie Kirk and go out and talk to young people on colleges and, you know, present yourself professionally and invite them to ask questions and enter into discussion, kind of like old Christopher Hitchens did, you end up dead. So who's behind it? The people that don't want us to talk to young people. They might not care about me, but they sure do care about the college age kids that are going to be in charge in 5 or 10 years.
Prester John, how convenient for Trump to break, and I don't know this phrase. Do you know this, John?
Yeah, sure. It's posse comitatus is a law that basically says that you can't have citizen police forces jumping up. An army, comitatus is a Latin phrase of army, and you know, like a posse. That's what it means in the Wild West movies, where the sheriff says, "Let's put together a posse." Okay, and it was used famously in South Carolina to put down slave revolts and things like that.
Yes.
And so I don't remember how it is, but it's forbidden, I think, under. Let me look it up.
Okay. Well, Prester John goes on to it says, how convenient for Trump to break posse comitatus and unleash the U.S. military on Black neighborhoods. And Prester, I'm a little confused by that. Is it Black neighborhoods that are simply being targeted with these efforts to bring in the National Guard to assist law enforcement in these cities? You know, Washington, D.C. is certainly a majority Black community or significant Black population, but is it in Black neighborhoods? Interesting.
It's the Posse Comitatus Act bars federal troops from participating in civilian law enforcement except when expressly authorized by law.
Read that again.
The Posse Comitatus Act bars federal troops from participating in civilian law enforcement, except when expressly authorized by law. This 150-year-old law embodies an American tradition that sees military interference in civilian affairs as a threat to both democracy and personal liberty. However, recent events have revealed dangerous gaps in the law's coverage that Congress must address, so says the Brennan Center for Justice. Yeah, so I started off on the wrong track there. It does come from the return of white supremacists to political power in the southern states and the establishment of those whoever, except in cases and under circumstances expressly authorized by the Constitution or act of Congress, willfully uses any part of the Army or the Air Force as a posse comitatus or otherwise to execute the laws shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 2 years or both. So that's what it's about. I was a little bit off there.
Okay. So Trump is breaking with that and bringing in the U.S. military.
Well,
to
that's
assist
what he
law
said. Now,
enforcement.
if the law says he can do it, which it's an emergency, right? I mean, everything with Trump is an emergency.
Everything.
So if it's an emergency, then the law says he can do it.
Right.
We need to know exactly what an emergency is.
This is illegal, and except for where it's allowed by law.
Yeah, that's right. It's like you can't poison people except for when you can.
Right. You can't blow up people except for when you can.
Yeah, and yeah.
Oh my. Wahed Rex says security contractors who have local politicians in their pockets.
Okay. Well, that's starting to sound like Eric Prince and Blackwater and the private security companies, Wackenhut in the earlier days. Yeah, and the whole idea of these little private armies all over the place is something that is very important in the JFK assassination story, with the FBI going to Louisiana to bust open an arms cache that they had, and other instances that we've read about. I think the Shikshini Knights story is very fascinating about this supposed branch of the Russian-derived Knights of Malta that ends up in Shikshini, Pennsylvania, and is associated with some prominent, very right-wing generals like Arthur Trudeau, like General Walker that Oswald supposedly shot, and more close to my interest is Charles Willoughby, the supposed the actual intelligence chief for General MacArthur. These really right wingers that he has ties, strong ties back to Europe, to Germany. But anyway, I think that an awareness of these private armies existing, and again, it reminds me of the supposed Muslim camps that are hidden in various places. I remember spotting one in South Carolina, and this.
What does that mean? Spotting one in South Carolina?
Well, there's what, 5-6 years ago, so my mind is a little fuzzy on it, but I remember studying at the time, like Fethullah Gulen and the Turkish connection to importing drugs, but also the idea that there are armed camps that are secretly being established in various places, perhaps under the false pretenses that it's just a community center or something like that. That's what I recall.
I see, and they're Muslim, and therefore they must be armed, or
Well, I didn't
getting
say that.
ready. No, I know you're not saying that. Absolutely not. But just because there's a Muslim community doesn't mean that they are a danger or a threat. And I think sometimes the media suggests that. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying others are. No, I don't think you would say that. Brightmore says, CNN headline, quote, suspect taken into custody 33 hours after killing, FBI chief says, end quote. No psyop there. Almost amusing to see the satanic numbers inserted into our daily media. Good catch, Brightmore. Interesting observation.
Yeah, man. Every time I see 33, I'm thinking, oh no. PSYOP numbers.
Brightmore says black neighborhoods are where the crime is. Well, not necessarily in Washington, D.C. I think, there's crime throughout Washington, D.C., and the two high-profile incidents that were being mentioned in this effort to bring troops into Washington were not in what would be considered black neighborhoods. They weren't even in residential areas at all. They were in more commercial areas and government buildings and business areas. And I'm trying to remember what they were. One was the intern who was shot, and the other one was he was a young man who was a protege of Elon Musk, who was the victim of some kind of crime. I think he was killed. Yeah, but that was the one that Trump talked about a lot.
What about the woman that was viciously murdered on the Charlotte metro system? I think was that Monday or Sunday?
The Ukrainian woman.
Yeah, and as I understand, Charlie Kirk was talking about that murder. That again is a very divisive thing. People would say, these immigrants, crazy, criminal minds, we've got to stop them. And so that inflames a certain part of the population. And the idea that we now need to have security cameras on all the metro trains it fits very conveniently to the whole security agenda.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with security camera on public transit. Absolutely. I mean, crime on subways throughout the country has always been an issue in the Washington metro system, the New York subway system. I don't know about other parts of the world. I'm okay with cameras. I've always assumed they're there.
What about if when you leave the metro system and you go out and walk into the city, do you want to be on camera then?
I don't want to be on camera, but I know it's there.
So knowing it's there, you don't like it being there, but it's not a big deal. You're not gonna revolt against it.
And what can I do about it? You can't, it's out in the middle of public. I'm more concerned about surveillance in my home. That's the kind of thing that I would, and I do try to avoid. I mean, I have no idea about computers and TVs and, all of these other things and how much we are being hacked and watched through those devices. But you're not going to find an Alexa or a Google or, an Echo or whatever all of those devices are. You're not going to find them in my home, because I do believe that they are being used as an opportunity to watch us or listen to us or to keep up with what we're up to. Our phones, we're being tracked. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think our computers as well.
Yes. Yes, yes. Oh, a lot of chat going on here.
Yeah, I'm not somebody that divides people up in terms of black and white. I don't like it, So
Yeah, I think that there are times when I think it is a tendency that we as humans, to see people differently based on the color of their skin, to make assumptions about people based on the color of their skin. I saw a comment just this week that just bothered me so much, where somebody suggested that a nearby community, that half the people who live in that community do not work. And there's no reason to think that. This is a community where the unemployment rate is like 4%. So why would somebody think that half the people there don't work? But it is a community that has become majority Black. So is that why somebody thinks half the people there don't work? I don't know. But I do think that there is a tendency for us to assume things about each other. I do it. I'll acknowledge that I do it. I see somebody who is Black and I think, certain things about them, and I see somebody who is white and I think other things about them. You know, if I see a white guy with short hair and driving a pickup truck, I'm going to assume a certain things about him. And I might be right, I might be wrong, but you know, I do think that we do have the tendency to make assumptions based on physical appearance. It's really not about race. It's based on physical appearance, but race is part of our physical appearance.
Well, you're making a point about psychology, but I think what the commenter here is saying, is that Brightmore? Who is it? Is saying that in fact, black on black crime is a underreported phenomenon. That kind of thing. You know, you're saying as a fact, you know, that black on blacks.
Brightmore says a current psyop is black fatigue, in which blacks and non-blacks complain about the ratchet and ghetto blacks, creating a negative image for the black community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Though there are some who say that some of black culture isn't negative necessarily, and, you know, let that be part of our culture too. Certainly not violence and crime and, you know, vile language and treating women badly, and drugs, but, you know, music, wearing chains, wearing dreadlocks or braids, it's part of black culture, but there's nothing wrong with it, and let it be.
I don't see anything particularly violent about black culture or black people.
Right.
I just don't see it.
Well, come on. Some of the rap music is very violent, and
I don't listen to that. So,
well, I don't either.
but you know,
I mean,
but I can't put that on the tradition of black people in America. That comes from the tradition of money making moguls in Hollywood. You know, these people are created. You know, these rappers are, you know, they're made into multi-millionaires and told to wear the goddamn gold chains around their neck to make them look attractive to young people that are trying to make it in the world. And, you know, yeah, rap is glorifying gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, you know, you want to be a gangster. Well, why? Because they need gangsters. They need people to do crime. They need, you know, like David and I were saying in the show, at the end of the show this past Tuesday, you know, the empire's secret is crime. They have this whole network of criminals that they can rely upon to take care of business. When the team A can't do it, just turn to team B.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I do not ascribe this rap gangster culture to black culture. I think it comes from the minds of psychological nutcases in the music business.
I think you make a really good point. I can't say it better than you do, and can't argue with it.
Mm. You know, I mean, when we watch Jeopardy together, you know, when the category is modern music, you know, and it says, you know, who was the girlfriend of rapper P.D. James or something like that, and I'm like, why is this in my culture? I don't want this to be part of Jeopardy.
But when it's, you know, it's on Jeopardy, it's anything that's pop culture, whether it's rap music or pop music or modern rock or anything from the last 2 decades. I am clueless.
Yeah.
I have no idea who these people are. They have names, and thank God for Matt Amodio, because Matt Amodio, he is lobbying to get pop culture off of Jeopardy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm for that. I'm totally for that.
Absolutely. Especially now that there's Pop Jeopardy.
Now, what would Hugh Downs have said about this crap? You know, it's
Exactly.
bullshit.
Yes, I agree. I agree completely. No pop culture on Jeopardy. It's about the basics. It's about history. It's about geography. It's about literature. It's about science. That's what Jeopardy should be about. Matt is all about that, and I really respect him. And Ken gives him a lot of, he jokes about that. Whenever Matt gets a pop culture question right, Ken has to point it out.
We're not Jeopardy nerds here now. Don't get that impression.
Oh, you're not. I am. It's absolutely me. It's not John. John will watch Jeopardy with me from time to time, but I watch Jeopardy daily. And the fact that Jeopardy is now streaming, it is making my life so much better. All right. Enough plugging Jeopardy.
Well, so I think, you know, this week has been a reversion to the PSYOP era of, you know, so many of those horrible killings that involve schools and otherwise. I think of the San Bernardino killings as well. And the idea that our military, our police forces, our FBI, they can't figure these things out. You
Can't
know,
figure what things out.
like the San Bernardino thing, like Sandy Hook, like, you know, they can't figure it out. They just can't figure it out. And the number one can't figure it out on most people's minds this week has been 9/11. They can't figure it out either. You know, I mean, the 9/11 Commission itself. What was it? Thomas Keynes and the other guy. There were two retired senators, I believe. They were appointed to investigate 9/11. They had no budget. They were constricted by the Congress's red lines as to where they could go. And they filed a report that said, we just haven't had the resources to answer the question. So that's what I want to know, you know, is when are we going to get behind 9/11? And I'm afraid you're going to find behind 9/11 a lot of similarities to what's really behind these shootings.
Yeah. I think that they know much more than what they are telling us. It's just that they're not telling us.
Yeah. And gradually, you know, the boiling frogs metaphor, where here we are, we're frogs and we're in a nice warm puddle of water and we're happy, you know, and they're just slowly turn up the heat. And then one day we're toast.
Undo the coup, says Corky.
Undo the coup, Corky. Thank you so much for supporting
Indeed.
our big meme that we've been trying to get around. And that's, again, if we don't unfold what happened and who was behind it, then we're never going to understand 9/11. We're never going to understand all the other stuff that's happened since then, because we're still being run by people behind the scenes, a coup d'etat.
That's right.
So that's been on my mind for months now, and I think it's going to continue to be a topic here at McDuff Lives.
Oh, let's hope so, because I think that you've done a really remarkable job helping to unfold that and identifying resources to help us to unfold that.
Let's put this up from Corky. Unless the heat makes frogs learn how to leap out of the water. Come on, you guys. Learn how to jump. Did you see that frog jump yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, frogs can really jump.
This little bitty frog, about, I don't know, about that big, a couple of inches at the most, it jumped at least 2 feet high and 3 feet in distance.
All right. Well, time's up. Solving 9/11 by Christopher Bolin, a recommendation from our friend Brightmore Dinosaur. Thank you, Dino. Thank you, Corky. Thank you, Prester John, Paula, Polly, and everybody else that's been with us today.
Jonathan Edward Gibson. Yeah, and in the very beginning, Razvedka
Razvedka.
Yeah, said good morning to us and we never got to reply. So good morning to all. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right. We will see you Monday morning right here at McDuff Lives.